Greetings everybody, it is I am the one and only Pac-Man here, and I am back for yet again for the likes of the NiGHTS videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of NiGHTS Dreams for the Sega Saturn, along with the forms of the Japanese exclusive PlayStation 2 release, as well as the forms of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and PC Steam. So yeah, last time we did manage to complete Soft Museum and Stick Canyon for both Claris and Elliot respectively, and also we did manage to take down not only the Joker, but also Riello as well. So today for this video is the fact that this will be the finale portion in terms of NiGHTS Dreams. Now before we get into the actual final level in the game, first of all we need to do the second attempt for the sake of Mystic Forest level for Claris, because as you already know, that I somehow managed to able to get the weakest ranking, which appears to be the D rank. I think the only reason being for this is because, well, for that particular fish boss fight that I somehow managed able to waste time on, that's the reason why I've managed to get the weakest rank, which is of course the D rank, which it is not required to finish the actual entire playthrough of the game, because like I said before, in order to able to actually get into the final level in the game, Twin Seeds, you must be sure you need to able to actually go ahead and, well, get C or higher ranks on 3 levels. So because of that though, so I figure we might as well able to do the exactly same structure as you remember from the likes of NiGHTS Journey of Dreams, that we have to able to go back onto one of the previous levels again, but hopefully for a much more better attempt than the forms of how it does it from the first attempt. So, because as far as I'm aware, that unlike the forms of how it does it on Journey of Dreams, that basically that's no longer a mission structure for the sake of this game. So this is basically you have to go for the entire, well, the level itself, which makes things a bit longer than the forms of how it does it on the forms of NiGHTS Journey of Dreams for the sake of the mission structure. So as a result though, I don't mind the actual length of itself. So either way though, I want to classify that. So, and hopefully, whenever we get ourselves the much more better ranking than the forms of how it does it from previous attempts, then sure enough we were able to actually dive right into the final level in the game, both on Claris's playthrough along with Elliot's playthrough. So because of that though, we should probably do, well, both playthroughs to end things off. So, anyways, so a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that is the fact that today's day is of course the, I would say today it is the 22nd of December today, in this case in 2021 today. And naturally, we've only got about 3 more days to go until Christmas is approaching. So because of that though, still excited for it, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, I'm sure that most people are really always excited for Christmas during that time, and not to mention though is the fact that one thing I should probably mention about this as well, that recently for the UK version of the likes of Mario Party the Top 100 for the Nintendo 3DS, in the UK version, that particular game came out 4 years ago now. So because of that though, yeah, I can't even believe that game is now 4 years old, despite the fact that it's a bit outdated now compared to the forms of how it does on the superior Mario Party Superstars for the Nintendo Switch, because obviously compared to the 3DS installment, it's more like Star Rush but with less content, whilst in the Switch version it's basically like Super but with a much more better features, like for instance adding more control support, as well as handheld mode, and also just, well, glad to be back onto the past Mario Party minigames in the past, and also a bit of a better character roster than the forms of how it does it on the Top 100 in my opinion. So yeah, that's basically that. And also another thing I should probably explain about this as well, that apparently so, about the fact that, well, they were expecting to able to actually just to see some more infos for the sake of, like, apparently to the, according to the forms of one of those Japanese interviews or something like that, that I don't know if I was expecting to able to actually just try to mention that they will try to able to bring in a brief new gameplay footage for the sake of Sonic Frontiers in one of those random Japanese videos or something like that, or certain news for the sake of December 20th, but apparently I did not see any sign of it, none whatsoever, which is kind of a shame, because I would really love to see what the actual gameplay itself looks like, in action. So because of that though, yeah, once again we've somehow managed to get trolled once again, except this time the lack of infos for the sake of likely the news infos for Sonic Frontier. So I have no words but to able to just try to, you know, look it up at certain points, but I still have no luck trying to able to actually find those specific news and updates on that particular game so far. So it's kind of a shame, honestly, because I would really love to see what's going to be there for the sake of the actual amazing game until next year, along with, of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, and Mario Plus Rapid Sparks of Hope, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Splatoon 3, and also Bayonetta 3, and most of any other like exciting titles coming out for the sake of next year. Although we'll be able to find out at some point in early next year for the sake of 2022. To able to actually recently looked upon the forms of more infos for the sake of upcoming titles and stuff like that, and even certain surprises here and there too, which we're really hoping that the Nintendo Direct system will be able to actually make its return for the likes of 2022, which it will be nothing like the forms of how it does it on that miserable 2020 year because of the forms of, well, you know what I mean, and it's also filled to the brim with those mini versions of those specific directs, which I wasn't really a big fan on those, honestly, because it feels lack in depth. So, as a result, though, that's the only prime example I was trying to able to point things out for the sake of time. So, and I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well, that recently I managed to able to watch the films of another film that I somehow managed to went to see on the big screen, which is more accurately my final ever film to able to watch for the likes of 2021. But aside from the fact that until tomorrow, that Encanto is going to be releasing on Disney Plus until 2 days time now for the sake of Christmas Eve. So pretty cool actually to able to actually have that particular release of that particular film on Disney Plus will be on well, in Christmas Eve, of course. So as a result though, that we actually watched Spider-Man No Way Home, which, don't worry, I'm not going to point out the spoilers because it will just manage able to ruin some people for the sake of trying to mentioning about the spoilers, but don't worry, I'm not going to mention about this right about now for those who have not seen the film yet. But I will tell you right about now, I highly recommend the film, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, again, let's not get ahead of ourselves to the spoiler territory because, well, nobody likes spoilers. Just like what Sakurai said. Anyway, so, yeah, as a result though, I highly recommend the film, by the way, because it's especially true where, if you're a huge Spider-Man fan, such as myself, and as a result though, you will instantly try to able to enjoy the film on the big screen. It's kind of a shame that that particular film doesn't seem to came out on Disney Plus, mainly because it's been owned by a different film developer, likely for Sony departments. So because the majority of the Spider-Man films did manage to came out on the likes of the Sony films productions, rather than just becoming like a hybrid of Disney and Marvel. While it's technically still been owned by Disney because of the forms of Disney Junior TV series or something like that, even though I haven't exactly looked upon Disney Junior as much as the forms of how it does on the some other Marvel series of films and stuff like that. And also during the forms of that specific points today, that recently that the whole guide managed able to get its finale treatment as well. So because of that though, again, I'm not going to go into the huge spoiler territory right there, because obviously nobody likes spoilers for those who have not seen those kinds of stuff yet. So yeah, for the meantime though, let's just go ahead and dish out the forms of that particular fish-like monster boss for hopefully for a better attempt than the forms of how it does it from last time, as you can see right there. Then I somehow managed able to get like 52 seconds left, so, and I think that should able to give me some decent points boost by, for the sake of the forms of 76,944 points. And that should lead us to rank C, so we should be okay now. Especially noticeable, we can finally manage to unlock the final level for Claris. So, geez, it only took me about 10 minutes to do so. but there we go, we did manage to accomplish that. So, anyways, enough about that. So let's get into the forms of the final level in the game, which appears to be, well, between those two playable characters for the final levels, it's basically exactly the same final level, depending on what characters you're using. But here we are, onto Twin Seeds, and the actual element for this is the growth. Okay, quick go right there, because this is my third attempt for this level, because, well, I know it has been a long while since I actually did manage to play this game from time to time, since 2 days ago, but as you can see, start things off a little bit differently this time around is that if you try to jump off and try to fall down in the process, and as a result, we're actually going to be flying as either Claris or Elliot, depending on what specific version of this level you're going to be playing as. So yeah, because obviously, differently from the previous levels, you can't take control of NiGHTS from the get-go, because instead, this evil villain called Wise Men did manage able to blow us back, and then basically that we ended up landing onto that random platform right there, and then as a result though, the only thing we can only do is to jump off and then fell down, and it magically happens that we actually decide to fly. So either way though, pretty cool actually, especially noticeable about the fact that this level might actually be a mixture of easy difficulty to kind of a difficult level in my opinion, mainly because, well, obviously you still have to go through 4 sections on that particular stuff here and there, but also in order able to go from next section to the other is the fact that we have to collect the exact amount of those blue chips, because if you somehow manage to grab 20 of those blue chips, then you move on to the next phase, or in this case the next section. So yeah, that's basically how this goes, basically. So you can't able to actually go into the forms of the actual, the NiGHTS thing, for each sections every now and then. So either way though, because all you have to do is basically you have to get into that capsule thing if you manage to able to get like 20 blue chips, and that's all you really have to do in order to move on to the next point of the level. So, yeah, it's pretty easy to able to rank up more points for the sake of this level right here, especially noticeable. There's a lot of, like, rings to go through, as well as blue chips to collect, and especially noticeable, if you try to keep on activating those specific switches, basically those particular stars will pop out. So meaning that you can able to potentially try to get the idea that you will get yourselves a ridiculous amount of combos for certain links. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool, level to end things off, especially noticeable this takes place almost exactly where, well, it's hard to explain because it's been like 2 days ago since I actually last played this, like I said before, because of the uploading schedules routine. So anyways, let's just go ahead and, oh jeez. I hate those little spiky rings because every time you get hit by those things, you lose 5 seconds. So, but it's also another reason why this level can be pretty difficult sometimes compared to the other levels. Is that, as you notice, every time whenever you get into the next section, your timer does not increase at all. So you're gonna have to do this within just a no problem mode kind of syndrome or something. So because of that though, yeah, you're gonna have to rush this because obviously if you don't make it in nick of time, especially noticeable, you only have 2 minutes to your disposal. Basically, if your time runs out, you have to start all over from the beginning of the level, so. But there we go, all sections is being completed. Not only does Claris needs to able to break down the shield, but also Elliot decides to join in as well. And since that we actually break the shield, and since that we can now reunite with NiGHTS again, and this should pretty much lead us to the final boss in the game. So I think there are, to be more specifically, 7 boss fights throughout the whole game. So anyways, let's see what foe we are faced off against. Well, of course it's pretty obvious. We're faced off against with the actual main villain itself, which appears to be the Wise Man. So basically this entire battle is pretty simple. Basically, as you notice, we have 2 knights on screen. Like, I believe the only difference is between one of them is the fact that I'm presuming that Claris' version of NiGHTS is actually a bit slightly lighter colored than he forms about it does it on the normal purple color for Elliot. So as a result though, the entire battle can be summed up as like this. Basically, we have to dodge a lot of projectiles or certain hazards, and basically, depending on what specific phase we go into, and basically, all you have to do is make your way towards Wise Men, and you have to hit him for about, I would say roughly 4 times, and then the only way you can deal the damage on Wise Men is the fact that not only do we have to take down his shield with 2 knights, but also 2 of those knights needs to be able to damage him or hit him at the same time. And once all 4 hits are usually comes into play, that's the entire fight. It's easily one of the easier final bosses in any of those Sega games that we've ever played, or for the sake of time, one of the easier boss fights throughout the whole game. But the only thing that's kind of annoying in this particular boss fight though, I have to say, is the tornado sections, which I'll talk more about it as soon as we get into the Elliot version of the level, but first of all, Claris Ending. So there we go folks, that pretty much wraps it up for Claris' playthrough. Now I know you guys are probably thinking that did you somehow skip the entire staff credit sequence? Because let's face it, we still need to be able to go through the exact same level as Elliot, so yeah, we should probably take care from that. And it's also worth noting for us the fact that we can able to get this game finished for the likes of 100% run-through. Well, it's not necessarily the 100% run-through of the game, mainly because I'm usually just not exactly the master of the game, but I'm pretty good enough as it is. So, here we go, on to Twin Seeds again, but instead of trying to take control of Claris again, instead we're able to take control of Elliot. So, although then again, the actual level layout is pretty much exactly the same as in Claris' run-through, so there's nothing different from there. So, and it's also worth noting for us the fact that I'm getting a little bit annoyed with my, Rockstar Video Wave program at the moment, because whenever I did manage to able to once again done with my commentary and stuff like that my program always crashes, and as a result though, I've lost all of my progress for the sake of the forms of that godforsaken process of this recording. So, I know it's a bit inconsistent, but as a result though, yeah, it's not much right to home about. So because of that though, I just got a little bit paranoid for my program crashes. So, but let's face it, it's the fact that it's like depending on my laptop is actually getting quite old, like ever since likely 8 years ago. Although until when it gets to the point until next year in 2022, that I've been having the actual laptop for 9 years. But I think if I get the strong sense of feeling, when it gets to the point until 2023, that when my laptop is actually getting a little bit more, how should I say, busted, or something like that, basically though, I'm also able to get my chance able to get a new laptop because, well, it's nothing broken just yet though, like obviously with my Windows 10 support is still there, but the only problem I have with my current laptop at the moment is that the actual hinge of the clamshell is almost gonna break. So because of that though, hopefully though, if that particular year comes by, then well, it's not gonna happen until for a very, very long time in 2023, then I was able to actually decide able to get a brand new laptop, or even the actual iMac or something like that, or MacBook, if depending on the forms of the pricing, as far as that's been concerned with, so... But I digress. So either way though, that one thing is kind of interesting is the fact that with Twin Seeds level, that this is the only level that it does not feature any enemies flying about. Although the only thing you need to watch out for is of course the actual spike rings, because obviously you lose 5 seconds if you somehow dare touch those spiked rings if you're not careful. And also the actual time extension does not extend, unlike the forms of the previous 3 levels like I said before. So yeah, there's not much else we can honestly try to say when it comes to Twin Seeds, the final level in the game. So it's just there for the sake of the forms of like able to try to take down Wise Men twice for the likes of not only one for Claris but also for Elliot. So yeah, there's not much right to home about. So either way though. So yeah, we can able to actually reunite with Knights again, and sure enough, we're able to actually get into the final boss for the second time, but this time we're going to be able to, well, take control of the actual purple version of Knights himself, whilst compared to the other Knight, which is basically it's like a lighter pinkish color for Claris, so I can definitely notice some of the differences, so... And obviously, the entire boss fight, one thing I should probably mention is the fact that you have to avoid a serious amount of projectiles. Like, for instance, in the first phase, he's obviously shooting out fireball projectiles, and the second phase, you need to avoid those asteroid rocks, and eventually you have to avoid those icy snowballs, and the fourth, and to me though, the most annoying segment in the whole fight is the fact that you have to avoid 2 of those tornadoes, that you're gonna have to able to go into the middle portion of that particular tornadoes. But I swear to God, the actual the only method I can try to able to avoid that attack is impossible sometimes, which I have to admit though right away that I know there might be some bit of a strategy when it comes to likely trying to avoid those godforsaken tornadoes, but I have no luck trying to able to actually just try to avoid those during time. So it's just a bit of an inconsistency sometimes, but aside from that, there's not much else I can honestly try to say about this particular boss fight itself. It's basically, it's like, you know, the exact same fight as the forms of Claris' playthrough, except, well, you just control Elliot instead of Claris. But, since we actually did manage to complete the Elliot's playthrough, so in this case, since we've completed both playthroughs, so in addition to trying to watch Elliot's ending, but also the special secret ending. So there you go, folks. Not only do we able to complete Elliot's playthrough, but also we actually see the true secret ending, where basically Claris and Elliot managed to reunite each other for reality, and then they've met each other during the course of the dream world, or Nightopia to be more precise. So, although I absolutely have no idea what this world takes place into, but either way, it's a nice little ending. So. And now we can able to see the actual staff credit sequence filled to the brim with this particular theme song of Night, which is, not gonna lie, pretty catchy theme, just like the forms of how it does it on Night's Journey of Dreams. So, yeah, let's give my final thoughts of Nights into Dreams for the Sega Saturn, Japanese exclusive PlayStation 2 version, along with the HD ports to the game on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC Steam. I think this is easy without a doubt the, now becoming one of my favorite Sega franchises, next to, Sonic the Hedgehog, obviously, and Super Monkey Ball. So I think with those three Sega franchises I'm always, into, that Nights into Dreams is silly is one of the greatest games ever, not just for the forms of the HD ports, including the Japanese exclusive PlayStation 2 release, but also for the likes of the Sega Saturn, which I would say, this is without doubt my absolute favorite Sega Saturn games I've ever played. Despite its a bit short length, but apart from those side of things though, the controls, and especially noticeable with the gameplay, is pretty simple and easy to get accustomed to. And the story is pretty simple as well, just all about the forms of how the fact that those dreams stumble across their nightmares, and then it's up to able to actually just to... Well, it's hard to explain because I haven't exactly read anything story related for Nights into Dreams for a very, very long time, but I will try my best to describe it. So, anyways, let's get into the actual good things about the game. Usually the gameplay is pretty simple, like I said already. As well as that, the graphics do look really, really damn good, especially noticeable if you ever played the HD ports to the game. Oh man, it looks spectacular. Although it's likely the remastered version from the likes of Nights into Dreams originally came out for the Sega Saturn, but back in the day in 1996, this is without doubt one of the best looking Sega Saturn games I've ever seen in my life. Well, mind you, we wasn't exactly were born until 1997, so because of that though, I have fake memories with it back in the day, but from what I've heard it from the likes of several playthroughs of the game, I'm really curious able to try the game out, and for my final thoughts of the actual game itself, I had a lot of fun playing this game. Sure, despite the fact that, like I said before, despite its short length, but it doesn't really bother me that much though, mainly because I enjoyed every single aspect about this game. And also the soundtrack is so damn good. And even the boss fights are pretty fun to fight. Well, apart from one, which appears to be that fish type boss fight that I somehow managed able to have struggle with. But regardless of such though, this game is such a great game to have. Even if you either own it on the Sega Saturn, you should definitely recommend it. And especially noticeable if you guys have the Xbox One, and especially noticeable with the Xbox 360 and Xbox Series X, then you can definitely able to actually play the game. And also say applies to the phones of the PlayStation 3 version as well. Sadly though, that the PlayStation 4 doesn't have the PlayStation 3 backwards compatibility, well apart from the fact that they've got PlayStation Now app, but aside from that, yeah, that's the only option you can get. And if you do have the Japanese PlayStation 2, then you can definitely recommend getting this game as well, because it adds a bit more content than the forms of how it does in the original Sega Saturn release of the game, but with the also say applies with the forms of a really great visual presentation. But apart from those side things though, that's as far as I can say in terms of Nights into Dreams itself. So yeah, this is certainly a recommendable title if you want to be able to give this game a try. But I will say this right now, do not, I repeat, do not buy Balan Wonderworld because that game is just a complete trash. But I will say, that is by far the worst game in 2021. So skip that game and just play Nights into Dreams and Night's Journey of Dreams if that was the only better options, because well, despite in Journey of Dreams does have some bit of rough around the edges at certain points, but it really doesn't bother me as much, I don't think. So, But regardless of such though, is the fact that this particular Let's Play is not going to be done yet, like I said before, because, well, I think suffice to say, we'll get out endings off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Nights into Dreams. We're going to be able to be feeling quite festive, and because of that though, next up we're going to be heading on to Christmas Nights into Dreams, which is actually going to be the unlockable mode if you ever complete the game both playthroughs. So yeah, stay tuned for Christmas Nights into Dreams, and until then, I'll see you guys in Christmas Eve.